So a few days ago, Jordan Peterson was on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and he took his condescension toward and demonization of Muslims to a whole new level. Now, of course, Jordan Peterson, he has a history of this sort of behavior, especially once he released that awful video, Message to Muslims. But that's actually very symbolic of who Jordan Peterson is. He looks down upon Muslims and postures as this intellectual. However, his answers are ridiculous. His grand solution to all the problems that Muslims are facing was to find a pen pal. And as disrespectful as that video was, this one is far more dangerous. Now, just to set up the context, this is, of course, about the horrific crimes that were committed in the UK regarding grooming gangs. Elon Musk has used his platform X to bring this to the forefront of public discourse. Apparently, there were men from Pakistan who were committing awful, horrific crimes that deserve the death penalty, that deserve the harshest of punishments. However, apparently there was a hesitation on behalf of the authorities to deal with this issue, which there should not have been. But that's the context, and in this clip they're going to discuss why. Why did the authorities fail to properly deal with this situation? Now, Jordan Peterson is going to give two reasons. One is about the political left, and one is about Muslims. And what he says about Muslims is so outrageous. I'll let him say it.
First of all, there are reasons that the authorities were afraid to act in the manner that they should have. Now, they were afraid partly because they would be pilloried by their confreres on the radical left, because the progressives are very good at reputation savaging their own. Yeah. But they're also afraid of Islamic fundamentalist backlash and the murderousness that might accompany that.
Now, when it comes to the political left, they were afraid if they were to actually come out and show, look, these immigrants from Pakistan were committing these awful crimes. The left not only would have defended those criminals, but would then attack and ruin the reputation of the people holding those criminals to account. And I'm not here to defend the political left. If that's true, that's awful. That should never be the case. If somebody commits a crime, they should be brought to justice. This is how I, as a Muslim, feel. This is what Islam teaches. This is how all the Muslims that I've ever seen approach the situation. And it's my understanding that that's what the UK is supposed to do. So their failure to do that is their fault. It's not the Muslims' fault. To whatever extent they failed to act and do their jobs, they should also be held accountable. And as you can see right now, as usual, we are receiving the backlash for something that wasn't our fault to begin with. I have seen nothing but Muslims say, give those criminals the harshest of punishments. And if you can't do it, if you can't handle it, send them to a Muslim country who can. However, the really, really outrageous thing that he said is about Muslims. Let me play it again.
But they're also afraid of Islamic fundamentalist backlash and the murderousness that might accompany that.
Yeah, so according to Jordan Peterson, they were also afraid of the murderous backlash of Muslims. They were afraid that if Muslims were arrested for committing crimes that are against Islam, that Muslims want their own children to be protected from, that Muslims don't want to be associated with, because as we can see here, now we are being demonized as a result. And this demonization is always used against us, to oppress us, to harm us. But here, Jordan Peterson is acting as if there was going to be this bloody, murderous backlash from these barbaric Muslims. What kind of backwards, dishonest nonsense is this? Every time these things happen, Muslims bend over backwards saying, we don't agree with this. This is against our religion. We don't go on murderous rampages. If anything, these things are used as an excuse to commit murderous rampages against us. And that actually is why some people on the left are hesitant. Not just because of their own reputations being damaged, but why would their own reputation potentially be damaged? Why would people on the far left attack them? It's because we've seen how such crimes have been used to demonize all Muslims. And let me emphasize this again. Even if people were afraid that arresting such men would make Muslims look bad, would make immigrants look bad, you still have to arrest them. You still have to carry out justice. You can't turn a blind eye to it. And no Muslims are calling for that. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said this regarding his own daughter. He said, by Allah, if Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, were to steal, I would cut off her hand. And what was he saying in this hadith? That people are not above the law. If somebody commits a crime, you carry out that punishment. So if Islam teaches this about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's own daughter, then what about some random men who come from some Muslim country? And what Jordan Peterson says next is actually worse. But we'll get to that in another video. Allah knows best. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.